So, welcome to a really special episode today of my podcast. Now, this podcast was meant to go out a few weeks ago, but things didn't quite go to plan, as it never does in my life. So, I decided to hold it back and put it out there today. So, by the time that this airs, tomorrow, I'm going to be under the knife and I'm going to be having the most daunting operation of my life. And I wanted to time this episode carefully because I just thought I'd chicken out if I actually had to, press publish a week before the operation. And I thought, oh God, I'm never going to do it. Whereas I've scheduled this, it's going out the day before when my mind's going to be on other things anyway, and it's taken out of my hands. So I've done it. And I wanted to record this episode to talk about the realities of being self-employed, the moments when everything goes wrong, you've got no income, and managing stress of real life events which come along and they just smack you unexpectedly from behind, like a giant wave, don't they? They knock you over and can send you into a real panic. And all these things that happen in our life, that as a self-employed person, we can't ever just be left alone to deal with them without sort of this feeling this large weight of responsibility, because, we've got business to keep going and we have to pay the bills. We can't ever truly switch off. There's grief, there's breakups, there's new motherhood, there's illnesses, physical and mental health issues. The list of life's challenges just sometimes seems impossible to navigate as a self-employed person. And yet you have to do it to stay in business. And I think for me, that's one of the biggest challenges that I face as a self-employed person. When things go wrong in life, I have this overwhelming sense of responsibility to my business and to everything that surrounds it. But I also am a human and I have a life and a family, and things go wrong. But that is most definitely my biggest stress when I have to close because something has happened. We aren't given compassionate leave. We're not given sick pay if we need time off to get well or deal with a difficult situation. We're just not. We have to just deal with it. It's really harsh. I remember when I had my daughter and I was recovering from the trauma of the birth. Still am, I think, if I'm honest. And I remember that I was supplying my work to a shop that was about 20 minutes away from my house. It was like these picture frames that I used to do for wedding gifts and stuff. Anyway, so I remember the lady who ran the shop texting me and saying that she'd just sold this custom order which needed making, and could I do it and drop it off for someone who wanted it that weekend. Well, I was 4 days postpartum, I was battered, I was bruised, in a complete and total daze of a newborn. I didn't know what day it was, honestly. The shock to my system. If you've ever been a first-time mum, you'll know. It's like nothing you've ever experienced, isn't it? It's something I was not prepared for 100%. But anyway, this lady phoned me, texted me, whatever, asked if I could do this order. And because all I'd ever known was my business, obviously I was now a mum, but I was only 4 days in and I didn't understand it yet. But obviously with my business, I'd had it for 10 years or whatever at the time. And I didn't know how to say no. So I just said, yeah, no problem. And I did it. Somehow I did it. And looking back now, I just keep thinking I must have been crazy. Because I remember delivering this order to this particular shop. And there was this 4 or 5 day old baby in the car seat at the back. My husband was driving. And I just got out of the car, hobbled in, and then I told her I'd had a baby, and she couldn't believe it. She was like, "Why are you here?" And I said, "Well, you had a custom order. I didn't know, you need it. You took the money. I didn't want to let the customer down." She was like, "Oh my gosh, get back in the car and go home." And I did, and looking back now, I say it was crazy, but it's just an extreme example really of the level of responsibility that we feel as entrepreneurs. I only had 8 weeks off as opposed to 9 months when I had Eden, my daughter, because I needed the money to pay the bills. One wage wasn't enough. Plus, when you've got your own business, you get worried about your reputation and what people are going to think if you're shut. But my point is this. So we don't have to have, we don't have the same luxuries, do we, really, when you work for yourself as you do when you work for a company. And sometimes we feel like we're just functioning as machines, which does take its toll on your physical and mental well-being. It's really, really hard. So I thought that it would be good today to dedicate this episode of my podcast to dealing with, the sometimes crippling anxiety and worry of being self-employed, especially if it's your full-time gig like it is for me, and looking at how we can manage these uncertainties and what we can do when we really, really have to take time off for all these unavoidable life events that, they're going to happen. They're going to happen in our life. And if no one even listens to this, that's okay too, because I wanted to record something for my daughter to listen to one day. So I've got something on record for her, so she knows exactly why I made the decisions I did, the worries and fears I had as a mother and a businesswoman supporting her family. And it's just a little piece of history for her as well. So darling, if you're listening to this in 10 years' time, just know that everything I ever do is for you. So honestly, I don't know how this episode is going to go. I'll probably veer off course massively as I just tell bits of my story, but I'm going to do my best to keep it relevant, so you come away feeling better, not alone, with some of the really difficult challenges that we just find ourselves up against as an entrepreneur on a daily basis. Maybe a bit roaring points, but I've always said when I started this podcast that it will be honest and it will be transparent, and that I do wear my heart on my sleeve. It's just who I am. That is who I am. I just think it's important for people to understand you, to know your situation, and just to let other people know that, they aren't alone if they have things going on as well in their lives that they're struggling with. From the outside, everything can look quite perfect, can't it, for people? And it's not always the case. So, yes, I'm going to use this episode to sort of help you through some of the feelings that you may have been having. So I'm going to take a deep breath. Maybe I could have had a strong gin if it wasn't the time that it was. What was it, 2:00? Maybe a little bit early. I have to do the school pickup shortly, so I better not. But yeah, okay. So where the hell am I going tomorrow? Well, what is going on? I will be on an operating table in Manchester having a procedure that I've been anticipating for 5 years now. I mentioned in another podcast episode that both me and my sister we tested positive for something called the BRCA2 mutation, which basically is a mutation in one of our genes, which means that we are at a really high risk of developing breast and ovarian cancer during our lifetime. Obviously, it was a massive shock at the time for us both. We wouldn't have known about it if my mum hadn't have passed away from breast cancer. And as it happens, we got investigated genetically. We had a history of breast cancer. As it happens, it didn't come from my mum's side. It was actually my dad that carried the gene. But we wouldn't have known about it if it hadn't have been for mum's condition. And I often say now, and both me and my sister believe that, she truly saved our lives. She did. Otherwise, we would never know about this. So we both made the decision when we found out that we were going to go for preventative surgery, and that was in the form of a double mastectomy with reconstruction, as well as having our ovaries removed. And we just basically decided, that we're not waiting around for it to get us, like it has pretty much every female member of our ever-dwindling family. We're just not. We're not prepared to give it that power. And the fact that we've got this knowledge actually is a really good thing, although it didn't feel like it at the time, and to be honest, it still doesn't feel like it, but I know that it's the right thing to do. If I want to be here, I want to be here for my family, for my daughter, so I know it's something that I have to do, but it doesn't make it any easier, as you can imagine. So my sister now, thankfully, is on the other side of both her operations. She's had them both done. She's doing absolutely fantastically. I'm so proud of her. For me, it's been a little bit slower here up north. I don't know, for those of you that sort of may know me, that are listening. It's been a right journey, to be honest, but my surgery was scheduled for the end of January, and then I contracted a really bad cough. It wasn't actually a chest infection, but it went on for a long time. The 100-day cough, they were calling it where I live. Anyway, I got it, came home from, I think it came from nursery, my daughter's nursery, I don't know. Pretty much the whole of the town that I live in has had some form of this cough. Anyway, our whole household got it, and I got it just a couple of days before my surgery was due last time. So I phoned the hospital, spoke to the anaesthetist, and he said he wasn't going to risk doing the surgery, as I'll be on a vent basically for like 9 hours, and I won't be able to cough, and there was a high risk of infection. So I was literally sobbing down the phone to him, saying I've been waiting such a long time for this operation, please don't forget about me. I'd literally, my hospital bag was packed by the door. I just had a conversation with my daughter, who's only 4. She suffers from really bad anxiety, anticipation anxiety anyway, so I didn't want to tell her too near the actual event. Sorry, too far away from the event, I should say. I wanted to tell her nearer the time. So I did a couple of days before, and then it was just really stressful because then it didn't happen. And it was really upsetting for us all. So I've been waiting for another date, which I received a few days ago. And yeah, all full steam ahead now. So hopefully, I've recorded this episode in advance, but hopefully by the time it goes out, then everything will still be going ahead tomorrow. So as I mentioned, there's just been a roller coaster of emotions experienced in the last few weeks particularly, but for a long time. It's been on and off for a long time. Panic, dread, relief, anger, annoyance, sadness, injustice. I think that is my biggest one, injustice. You name it, I felt it. But as I'm recording this now, I feel okay. At the time of recording, I'm a couple of weeks prior to my surgery, and I feel okay. I'm not calm by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm just okay. And I think accepting is probably the word. And after everything that happened with the delay, the fact it didn't go ahead, I probably feel stronger now than I did back in January when I found out. My heart is palpitating in my chest as I'm recording this, and I keep getting these waves of fear. But I do think that I'm at a level of acceptance now, and I'm staying focused, and that's what matters to me. Because if I remove the blinkers, if I get distracted by all the noise and the worry and the fear and the guilt, can I go through with it? What if I can't? How will I cope? And so on and so on. Will the business survive? Will it not? I don't know. I can't think like that. So I'm standing steadfast now as it gets closer, and I'm being as positive as I can. Have I been on the floor in heaps of tears, sobbing like a baby? Possibly. Have I unnecessarily shouted at my family just because it all feels too much? Maybe. Okay, yes to both. I've done both of those things and much, much more. But I'm being forgiving to myself. It's a huge deal. And honestly, all I can think about right now is getting out alive. That's all I want to do, is get out alive. So, how am I feeling in terms of my business? So if you are in a situation where you'll find it difficult to cope as well, maybe you've got something going on in your life that is really distressing you, maybe you're going through grief or breakup, like I say, or you are a new mom and you're finding it too much and you're running a business, how are you looking at it? How are you dealing with it? For me, I feel like I don't know how I'm going to handle being unable to work really for 12 weeks. That's my first concern. Physically, how am I going to not be able to get up and do the things I normally do? How do you keep a business or 2 businesses alive in my case while you have to deal with all this crap that life throws at you? Because as a self-employed person, we don't just get to forget about it all, like I said earlier. And actually, we don't want to, because we work so hard to get established, to get seen out there, especially social media. You get a momentum going. People expect to see you. You have your presence. It's how you get some sales. But then you disappear because of whatever that's happened. It can be planned, it can be instant, but you're gone. And for me, I feel disappearing for, between 8 to 12 weeks it could be quite hard to recover from. Now, I have actually was shut from, just before Christmas, because I was anticipating my operation in January, so I didn't open. And so I actually have only just opened up in the last week again to do some work before I go in. But, that was hard. I was off the scene for a good month, maybe 6 weeks, and I've definitely dropped off the radar on social media, and it's going to be hard to build that momentum back up again, especially just for a few weeks. But what I've come to realise, especially over the last few months really, that there are times in life that we're just going to have to accept it and know that we are no different to anyone else. People have got a full-time job, they've got secure income, all the benefits. Okay, we are very different to them because we don't have any of that, do we? Let's be honest. But you know what I mean, we're human. And the people in our life are human too. We need to, we need time off to grieve when people die and when we have a breakup. And we can get so stressed to the point of a complete mental breakdown. And that's happened to me before, where I've just kept going and going and going, despite things that were going on in my life. And then I've just exploded. And I've realised that, when things like this happen, we have to take time off to put ourselves first. If you're a mother, for example, with young kids, you know how unpredictable it can be. And you never know when you're actually going to be guaranteed time to do work, because things just change. They change by the hour. You can be sat at your desk, one phone call later from nursery, kids got diarrhea, that's it, you got to go and pick them up. Cancel your meetings, juggle your workload around the day, remainder of the week, work till 11 p.m. that night instead. Then you're pitching up on the sofa with them for however many days necessary. And all the while you're worrying about how much money you're losing and the knock-on effect that it's going to have if you don't show up on social media every day. That pressure, that constant pressure. It's a very, very hard thing to deal with. And honestly, being self-employed, it takes nerves of steel at times. It is not for the faint-hearted. It is really not. Sometimes I don't know how I do it because I'm such a worrier. I worry about everything. I try and anticipate everything. And I don't know how I run my businesses sometimes because it's so unpredictable. But I've done it. I'm doing it. I've always done it. It's all I've known for a long time now. And you have to be prepared for these massive gaps in income that you may experience. You could be lucky enough to have some backup or savings to get you through. But for me, I think the worry of losing my reliable, dependable reputation is always at the forefront of my mind, along with money, obviously, because whenever I have to close my business for longer period of time that I'm comfortable with, it's just there. I'm thinking about money all the time. It sets you back. If you're not making what you normally make every week, it can be very difficult to catch up as a self-employed person. I worry that, people may go elsewhere if I'm not available, and they probably will. If they need something urgently and you're not free to do it, then, they're going to go elsewhere. But that's okay because your loyal customers will always be there. In fact, one of my customers, I've known her now for 4 years, and every year she orders something off me for her daughter's birthday. And this year, when she messaged me, it was a few days before the first day of when my surgery should have been. And when I got the email, my heart sunk because I thought, I can't help her this time. I haven't got time to do with her daughter's order. And I ended up emailing her back. I told her the situation, what was going on. And she actually messaged me back and said, oh my gosh, please don't worry about us. Just get this done. And maybe you could do this for me when you're better. It doesn't have to be for a birthday, but I'd still like to keep this tradition up, and maybe you can make it when you're back at work. And I appreciate that so much. And that's what I plan to do. So once this second surgery date hopefully has gone ahead and I'm better, I'm going to contact her and I'm going to still make that birthday gift for that little girl, because that's what I do every year for her. And I don't want to lose that customer because, I've known her for a while, and that's just how I work. Because your loyal customers say they'll always be there. Yes, okay, you're going to lose some traction on social media if you're unable to post every day, or however often you do it. Is it irreversible? No. It might take a little longer to build it back up again, get back on people's feeds, be visible to them again, but it's going to happen. Okay, when something happens out of your control that just causes you to shut your business, take a break, step back, whatever, people will understand. Just be honest with them. Tell them why you're not able to do the order this time, just like I did with that girl. Because 99.9% of people will get it, I promise you. Just keep them in the loop and communicate with them. It's like anything. If you don't know what's going on, you're all confused, you start getting impatient, and then you just assume that this small business doesn't care about their customers, or, they're not authentic, they've dropped off the face of the earth. So put a notice. If you've got a website, put a notice on your website. You can add like a little note at the top or a pop-up, a little banner. Tell them that you're closed because of X, Y, and Z, whatever. You don't have to go into detail, but just give them an idea if it's due to a death or illness or holiday, whatever, because it really does help keep the stress away, as they won't keep messaging you or, having any sort of like rants on social media that may impact your reputation. If you've got a shop on Etsy, you can put it on holiday mode with an automated response. If people contact you, then it just pings straight back to them. It says, this is the situation, we'll be reopened again then, or whenever. It doesn't matter. As long as they know that you are shut and there's somebody there and you're still a business that exists. And you can do the same on emails, on Facebook. You can set up these automated responses on Facebook now. So you can say whatever you want to say in it. So as soon as someone sends you a message, it pings back to them, this is the situation. And it keeps them happy and it gives you time to breathe. Because I always feel when I put my out of office on, or I've got a note on my website, or I've got an automated reply set up, I feel happier just knowing that it's just taken off my mind. Even if it's a weekend, if you don't want to be disturbed at weekends, which, again, being self-employed, people message you all times of the damn day, don't they? You get evenings, you get very early mornings, middle of the night sometimes, depending on what they want. So, my phone's always on silent after a certain time. And, yeah, put an automated reply on that kicks in at the time you finish work and comes back, goes off when you start work again. So, well, I'll tell you a story. When my mum was poorly, she had secondary breast cancer. It's the point when, it became terminal. It was honestly the worst 2 years of my life. And it was for my dad and my sister as well. I was open and closed with Vintage Tree more times in that period than I think I've ever been in the whole year, 14 years, whatever I was in business. But I just worked when I could because, it did take my mind off things. But I did work during some really, really tough times. And I remember about a week before she died, she was in hospice care and I was sat at her bed. I was just making bows. So sometimes for my wedding stationery, I don't have ready-made bows for certain colours. So I just make my own bows. So I'm sat there with a big reel of ribbon and I'm just making like hundreds of bows. I can't tell you how many I can do in a minute now. It's quite amazing. A lot of experience. But anyway, so I was making these bows by her bed. I could just do it with my eyes closed. So I just felt like I needed to do something to be productive, to keep my mind busy while she slept. Or at least on this occasion, I thought she was sleeping. But on this particular day, she must have had one eye open and she just piped up out of nowhere. Oh, I like watching you work. And she just said it with a smile. It was quite calm. I like watching you work. And so I just carried on. I just made hundreds of bows that day. But I also recall on that same day, my phone just kept beeping. And it was a customer on Etsy who was asking me when I'm going to be open again, which I obviously hadn't specified the reason I was shut, but I just said something generic on my shop that I was closed until further notice. And I did reply to her. I was feeling quite pressured by her messages. I explained the situation, that my mum was terminally ill. I couldn't give her an answer right there and then, I'm afraid. And she replied to me. I don't even think she acknowledged what I told her. And she just persisted on asking me about some shades of ivory that I carried in the ribbon that she wanted to match her wedding colour scheme. And I remember thinking, I've only got one shade of ivory anyway. What are you on about? And then I just burst into tears. I didn't reply to her. Instead, I changed my automated message to something much more personal about, why I was off. And on that occasion, it worked. She didn't bother me again during that time. I can't even remember if I ended up working with her or not. I mean, she was an exception to the rule. But as I said, most normal human beings, even with any compassion, they're going to get it. They're going to understand if you have something on your website that says, I cannot work right now because of X, Y, and Z. And the truth is, you're going to lose income. You're going to lose it while you're closed, and it stings. I mean, I'm going to be shut for probably around 3 months. And I'm pretty terrified. I'm really terrified. I've probably got, 4 weeks to get a little bit of money in before I have to shut again. But for me, again, I've dropped off the radar a bit because I was shut after Christmas. So it's a bit of a challenge at the moment. And I've literally just started my coaching business properly at the back end of last year. I was ready to fire on all cylinders in 2024. Like nothing was going to stop me. Help loads of women get their businesses up and running. That's what I want to do. I want to help them this year get their businesses up and running, whether they're working full-time at the moment and they want to drop that down to part-time and run their business more. I don't know. I just want to help them be further along the process than they are right now. And then it all changed with a phone call. I think it was the first week in January, telling me that I got a date for my surgery and to start making plans to be like incapacitated for the first quarter of the year. So what can you do? That it's life, and we're entrepreneurs, so we think on our feet. And I realised that there's no way that I can run Vintage Twee for at least 8 to 10 weeks due to the limited movements that I'm going to have, the strength that I won't have in my arms and my chest wall and my stomach. And I need to use the equipment that I do for my stationery. I've got the guillotines, punches, and I can't do it. So I'm going to have to take that time off work with Vintage Twee because it's all physical labour for my work. But I do need some income. I can't just not work for that amount of time. So I thought, I don't want to abandon the ladies that I've been talking to on my Facebook group either. I've been helping them with their creative venture. I know I've valued their time so much and I'm really invested in their journey so far. I don't want them to feel like I'm not around for weeks on end. So as soon as I found out about my operation, this was beginning of January, I just hit the gas with a project that I'd started last year. I was planning to launch in the spring and I had to bring it forward by a few weeks. And that's my online course, which I've designed for female entrepreneurs who are starting a creative business and they want to learn how to do it. It's a digital course, so I knew that if I could get it up and running, I could just have it on my website and it was there. If any of these women needed help while I'm not available, while I'm not around, they have something there that they can buy and they can work through at their own pace. So they didn't feel like I'd just disappeared. I spent time building up relationships with these people. I'm invested in them. I want to support them. So I just worked day and night on this online course whilst trying to prep for going in hospital, making sure that my daughter's got the right support in place, booking food shops, buy depressing post-surgery clothes. Oh, God, awful. That I'll hopefully never have to wear again. Just worrying how both my daughter and I are going to cope without each other for a few days. And just, coming to terms with losing a sort of part of me. It's going to change the way I look forever. But in a way, it's been a welcome distraction. Doing this course for me was a blessing in disguise. I'm just so glad that, that I've got that support and I've got that community now who understand where I'm coming from. They know my story and they're 100% behind me, and I can't thank them enough for that. I'm really glad that I worked as hard as I did on it because, even if just a few people buy it while I'm in hospital, while I'm recovering, it's a little bit of income for me. But also because I can go into my operation knowing that I've not thrown away months of establishing friendships with these talented, wonderful women who are in my Facebook group, but I've left them with a little piece of my brain, it's quite a big piece actually because it took me forever to do. So even if I can't be there to help them or interact with them daily and to show them my support, it's there. It's there in the form of this course workbook I designed so they don't feel alone. Because one thing you're always going to get from me is authenticity, because I truly care. I care about all of you, everybody listening. If you've got this far in the podcast, I care that you have taken your time out of your day to listen to me. I'm just grateful. So thank you. And a special thank you to all the ladies who have been helping for their, understanding and their well wishes with everything that's been going on. You've all been really understanding, and it is so much appreciated. So whatever it is that you may be facing in your life right now, if you're self-employed, it's always going to feel that little bit scarier. You get your times and you just want to hide away from the customer service, the responsibility, the work. And you have to realise that you can do that and you must do that. Especially if you're feeling mental and physical strain of any kind because of it all. We're not superhuman. You're not going to damage your reputation if you take some time off. Just come back bigger and better and stronger. And if you really, truly want this, you want to work for yourself, you want to make a living from it, you'll do it. Like I say, it might set you back a few months, as it will do for me now, but I've accepted that because I know once this is over with, I can go full steam ahead. Human nature is to view the unexpected as stressful. We just do it because we're not programmed to deal with uncertainty. And we either respond in two ways. It's fight or flight. So some people will become really stressed by the unexpected event, whatever it may be, like a death or a breakup, like we were saying, anything. And they'll just want stress to go away. And they don't want to, or they feel they can't handle anything else going on in their lives, and they just walk away from it. And that's the business included. So that business that maybe they just started or were just getting momentum going with, it just gets shut down. It's over. Back to normality. Back to what's familiar and what's going to help them cope with the unexpected event. And some people, me, we go into fight mode. Not immediately, don't get me wrong, I go through a stage of flight mode too, where I literally declare that life is so unfair, I hate everybody, I'm never leaving the house again. But once that sort of shock subsides, my fight mode is then activated and I decide I'm up for the challenge. I work damn hard to find a way to make it work and formulate a plan, which is exactly what I did when I got that phone call from the hospital in the first week of the new year. Happy New Year. We're calling you for your life-changing operation. It gave me time to sort of prepare. Not a lot of time, considering it was only 3 weeks later that it was originally planned. But I worked my backside off. I developed this online course which accompanied to some podcast episodes that I did, excuse me, and I did a few social media posts as well to cover me while I was off. I'd also just completed a large wedding order as well that I'd taken on just prior to that phone call, so that was bad timing. So I was actually really stressed out before the original date of the operation, and in one way I'm glad it didn't go ahead. But there was a lot to do. But the point is that I didn't expect this to happen now. It wasn't on my agenda, not at least until early summer when they originally told me how long the waiting list was. But, I decided it's happening and I'm not going to let it knock me off course for 2024. I've got my plans. I know what I want to do. And that could be the same for you as well. I feel like, trying to view it not fearfully now, but more openly because, I've taken control. I've done something to protect my business, still keep my lovely audience engaged and feeling like they matter, because they do. And I'm a great believer, like my mum, things happening for a reason and falling into place. And she used to say, I always used to like this. She used to say to me, Joanne, we're all put on this earth for a reason. And then she'd tell me that her reason was to be a mum. It was all she ever wanted. And, she'd tell me, I know she would, she'd tell me just to get this over with. To get this done, Joanne. And then I can move on from it and really get stuck in to what it is I want to do in 2024. And, we have to remember that our present situation, where we are now, is not our final destination. So whatever is going on in your life, if there is anything that is holding you back or making you nervous or stressed or worried or scared of progressing with your business or with anything, remember that it's not where you're going to end up. It's not your final destination. It's a temporary blip, it's a temporary state of mind. We have to try and push through it. And that was hard for me a couple of weeks ago. Trust me, I wasn't in a great place. Once that first operation was cancelled, I found it really difficult to get out of bed and carry on as normal when everybody knew that this was happening. Everyone was prepared for it. My husband had taken time off work. It was difficult. And it was a really hard pill to swallow, as well as trying to manage this illness that we all had that was just going on forever. Can't tell you how fed up I was of coughing. I remember saying, I said to my friend, literally, I think me and my husband are one cough away from a divorce. It was driving us absolutely insane. Anyway, we're fine. But my point is, that these things happen, and we have to push through them. So I wanted just to quickly talk to you about something sort of going on the theme of things happening for a reason. I don't know how spiritual you all are. I am quite a spiritual person. I'm not particularly religious, but I do have certain beliefs. And like I say, I believe in signs and things happening for a reason. And when I went for my pre-op assessment for this operation, I was walking back to the car. My daughter was with me. She didn't come with me for the pre-op appointment, but she was in the hospital, so she could get used to the surroundings and where mummy would be. And as we were walking back to the car, she pointed out this painted stone in the grass near a tree. And we walked over to it, and I picked it up, and someone had painted some flowers on it, a really nice pattern, and they painted some words on it, and it said, "You are strong, you are brave, and you can do this." It was so weird, I can't tell you. And I really felt like in that moment that my mum was there giving me a message, and letting me know that it was all going to be okay. And obviously whoever wrote it had left it there on the hospital grounds because they knew that there were going to be people there who were going to want to read that message, a message of hope, given the nature of the environment that it was left in. So, I can't deny it did give me goosebumps. But I just wanted to share that with you in case anyone else just needed to hear that today. So I'm going to close this episode off. I just want to give really 2 minutes just to remind ourselves of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing, whatever it may be in your life, whether it's starting a business, working full time alongside it, because you're striving for that freedom to do what you want, to be there, to live a life on your schedule, not someone else's, or maybe you've had to make a major decision that impacts your physical or your mental health. And regardless of whatever it is, I just think it's so important for us to try and see the bigger picture when it comes to whatever decisions we make, why we are doing it. Because 9 times out of 10, it comes out of a place of love for those around us and for the sacrifices that we inevitably take for them. So a little message here for my daughter, if she does ever listen to this, I'm terrified. Not of the operation, but I'm terrified of leaving you. Because we've never been apart, not one night in 4.5 years. And I'm scared that you won't understand that I am coming back and that I will never leave you. But, when I leave that morning for my surgery and when I can't see you for 5 days and nights, I can't comfort you, I can't play with you when I'm home, not properly, or I can't afford to take you on holiday this year because, we've lost a lot of income, know that I'm doing this for you because I want to be here as long as possible to see everything that life has got in store for you. And I think trying to remember these things, how, I don't know, a 4-year-old's got no concept of time. She won't know how long it'll be till mummy gets back. I'm going to actually make her a mummy countdown calendar. So when she wakes up every day, she gets a little treat that I've left her, just so she can try and visualise time. So hopefully when this podcast episode airs, the next day her mummy countdown will start and she'll have opened treat number 1. Which I think she was, when I told her that was what was happening the first time round before the operation got cancelled, she was quite disappointed that she wasn't getting her treats for that week, and they'd have to wait because they're all wrapped up ready. Anyway, I did give her 1, but that was it. So, I know what it's like not to have your mum here when you're a mum yourself, and I want her to know that I'm not doing that for her. I'm going to be here. And we know we're lucky these days. We've got the power of science to get ahead of the disease, and to break this like family cycle. It's going to be the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life, apart from carrying my mum's casket when she passed away. But I want my daughter to know that I'm doing it for her, and I will be back. So on that note, I'm going to sign off. Thank you for listening. Say, like, if you've got this far, I really appreciate it. Hopefully, I didn't veer off course too much. I just felt it was important to really know how I'm feeling going into everything tomorrow. And know that you're not alone if you have something going on in your life that is holding you back a little bit, or it feels like, it's not gonna ease up, not gonna let up, because I often feel like that. There's always something waiting for me around the corner that stops my progress. But I keep pushing back, and I will always keep pushing back. And you need to do the same too. So whatever it is that may be, giving you that anxiety and giving you that stress, don't be afraid. Don't let it put you off or veer you off course on your goals, on your dreams, your business, whatever it may be. Just take time out if you need to, because you're human. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to schedule some posts while I'm recovering. So you may still hear from me, but just in case I don't get around to it, I will be back as soon as I can be. I'm sure with a million stories to tell, to entertain you. But until then, thank you so much for listening again, and I will see you all soon.